Frank Abagnale Jr. This is Frank Abagnale, one of the most famous con men in America during the 1960s. His story became so unbelievable that it later inspired the book and movie Catch Me If You Can. According to his own version, it all started when he was 16. After his parents divorced, Frank ran away from home and quickly realized that he could make people believe him. First, he decided to follow his childhood dream, becoming a pilot. Frank forged a check from a Pan-American pilot, used it to order a pilot uniform, and started pretending to be an airline employee. According to him, he used that uniform to take about 250 free flights to 26 countries. He took advantage of a rule that allowed airline employees to fly for free and stay in hotels. Frank told flight crews he was traveling for work, sat in the cockpit jump seat, and calmly traveled around, even though he had no right to fly a plane. At the same time, he was running a check fraud scheme. Using fake documents, he opened bank accounts, wrote himself checks for large amounts of money, and cashed them. Later, his story became even more unbelievable. He claimed that he once fooled an FBI agent by pretending to be another agent. He also claimed that he escaped from an airplane through the toilet and a lower hatch, landing directly on the runway. When pretending to be a pilot became too risky, Frank started changing professions. He claimed that he spent almost a year pretending to be a doctor in the pediatric department of a hospital in Georgia, then taught sociology for 2 semesters at Brigham Young University, and later pretended to be a Harvard graduate to become an assistant attorney general in Louisiana. But journalist Alan Logan did not believe the story. He searched through old documents, court records, and newspaper archives. After that, he showed that many parts of Abagnale's story were probably invented. According to Logan's investigation, Frank really did run away from home, really did forge checks, and really did try to pretend to be a pilot. But he was arrested pretty quickly. During the time when he was supposedly flying around the world and working as a doctor, professor, and lawyer, he was mostly in prison. There were no millions of dollars in forged checks either. According to the documents, the real amount was much smaller, around $1,448. Logan called the stories about 250 flights, working as a doctor, teaching at a university, becoming a lawyer, and escaping from an airplane unproven or invented. In the end, his biggest con may not have been in banks or airports. It may have been convincing the whole world to believe the legend he created about himself. Victor Lustig. This is Victor Lustig, one of the most famous con men of the 20th century. He is remembered as the man who sold the Eiffel Tower, not once, but twice. Lustig was born in 1890 in Bohemia. He was smart, charming, and spoke several languages. After moving to Paris, he quickly realized that his real talent was deception. One of his first scams was the Romanian box. Lustig traveled between Europe and America, met rich passengers on ships, and showed them a machine that supposedly printed real $100 bills. In reality, the box already had a few real bills hidden inside. But the victims believed it worked. Lustig sold the machine for $10,000 to $30,000, then disappeared before they realized it was fake. His most famous scam happened in Paris in 1925. At the time, many people thought the Eiffel Tower was ugly and too expensive to maintain. Lustig used those rumors. He made fake government documents, pretended to be a French official, and invited several metal dealers to a secret meeting. He told them the government wanted to quietly tear down the Eiffel Tower and sell it as scrap metal. Lustig chose a businessman named André Poisson. He convinced him that for a 70,000 franc bribe, he could help him win the deal. Poisson paid him, but when he realized he had been fooled, he was too embarrassed to go to the police. By then, Lustig had already escaped with the money. A year later, Lustig came back and tried to sell the Eiffel Tower again. This time, someone became suspicious, so he fled to the United States. In America, he continued with counterfeiting and other scams. He even tricked Al Capone by taking $5,000 from him after first gaining his trust. In 1935, Lustig was arrested for counterfeiting. He tried to escape by making a rope out of clothes and climbing out of his hotel room, but he was caught again and sent to Alcatraz. Victor Lustig died in prison in 1947. The Central Bank of Brazil robbery, the largest bank robbery in the history of Brazil and the second largest bank robbery in the world. It happened in 2005 in the city of Fortaleza. The criminals stole 164,755,150 reais from the vault, which was about $71.6 million at the time. The money was in 50 real banknotes, and the total weight of the loot was around 3.5 tons. The robbers spent about 3 months preparing for the heist. They rented a building 1 block away from the bank and opened a fake landscaping company there. This allowed them to bring materials in and out without raising suspicion. But inside, they were actually digging a tunnel to the bank vault. The tunnel was about 80 meters long and up to 4 meters deep. It was reinforced with wood and waterproof fabric. They even installed lighting, ventilation, and a telephone line inside. Through this tunnel, the criminals entered the room where the money was stored. They took almost everything from the vault and escaped. About 10 people were involved in preparing the robbery, but after the heist, some of them exposed themselves quickly. Several suspects started spending the money right away. At one car dealership, they bought 8 cars at once and paid in cash. The owner became suspicious and reported the license plate of the tow truck they used to move the cars. Later, police found part of the money. Around 1 million reais were hidden under the seats of the new cars. But out of the total stolen amount, only about 9 million reais were ever recovered. One of the suspects, Luis Fernando Ribeiro, was killed 2 months after the robbery. Other suspects were kidnapped, and rumors began spreading about possible connections between the criminals and the police. Ted Kaczynski. This is Ted Kaczynski, an American mathematician who became known as the Unabomber. As a child, he was considered a prodigy. At just 16, Kaczynski entered Harvard and later became a mathematics professor at the University of California, Berkeley. But in 1971, he suddenly left his academic career and moved to a small cabin in the forests of Montana. There, he tried to live without modern technology and became convinced that technological progress was destroying human freedom and nature. From 1978 to 1995, Kaczynski sent homemade bombs to universities and airlines. That is where the name Unabomber came from. University and airline bomber. His attacks killed 3 people and injured more than 20. In 1995, he demanded that his manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future, be published. In it, he explained his hatred of modern technology. After the text was published, his writing style was recognized by his own brother, who contacted the authorities. In 1996, Kaczynski was arrested in his cabin. In 1998, he was sentenced to life in prison. He died